One of the best strategies I found in recovery and how I teach and coach is to give you actual practical tools to implement and to consider, and that you can use yourself. Yeah. So the answer to this question, a toolkit or a strategy for when we're in a setback or feel stuck in life. So that might be in the space of health, but it could be otherwise as well, in any stage, in any area of life where we're feeling stuck or like we're in a setback, has 3 steps. So step 1, which I would suggest, is really most instrumental, is to get very real with the situation and how you feel about it. Because if you're feeling stuck, or if you're in some sort of setback, or particularly if that feels like quite a monumental setback, I would suggest there'll be some pretty strong emotions around that, and that would be appropriate. So a great question prompt is, what's the emotion I'm feeling around this? And one of my favorite things to do in terms of answering these questions and pondering them is to switch up my environment. So for some of you, that might just look like getting up and moving to a different room that you don't normally sit in necessarily or spend too much time in. For others, like myself, I love getting out in nature and moving my body whilst I'm thinking, so for a walk. So that question, what's the emotion I'm feeling right now? I would suggest could quite easily be anger or frustration. Yeah. And there might be others there too. And you might also find that it might feel like there's just one, anger, for example, and when you begin to explore that, all of a sudden another one might pop up asking for your attention too. So I'm going to run with the example of anger here, just to give you an example. And what you want to do when you've identified what the emotion is then what I call a drainer download. Yeah, you want to get that out of your head, out of your body, and begin to start releasing it, but also whilst acknowledging why it's actually there. So what's there, being the emotion, and then what could be causing it to be there. So the question I then ask is, I start saying to myself really is, I'm angry that ... or I'm angry about ... And I just keep saying that, and I just keep finishing the sentence. I'm angry that this. I'm angry about that. I'm angry that this. And the really great thing about undesired emotions is when we name them, they already begin to release. It's not the full process, but it's a helpful part of the process. And often our clients will explain that as the dropping of the shoulders. Yeah, so they begin to feel the pressure release a little bit. The reason why it's so important to ask this question is until you acknowledge what's actually happening, where the starting line is right now, and bring acceptance to that, you're actually just dancing around creating change. It can't happen if there's no willingness to acknowledge where the starting line is. So step 1 is get real about how you feel about the situation. What's the emotion I'm feeling right now? And then I'm angry that ... And you'll find that you come up with a nice little list. Step 2 is asking yourself, am I willing to do anything about this? And if the answer is yes, the next question you want to ask yourself is, what or how much am I willing to do about this? Because, after answering that first question, you'll find that you have a short list of reasons or pain points or the drainers that are contributing to the feeling of being stuck or being in a setback. But that doesn't give us a license or right to complain about them without acknowledging our willingness of what we will and won't do about it. Because it would be pretty crazy, right, to expect that just because we wrote down a list of problems, that would equate to them resolving. So I think it's really important to get honest about how much you're willing to do about it, because your input and your effort and your contribution and your proactive action will determine the quality and size of the result that you get. So it's like, if you're not willing to change it at all, that is the best answer for you right now. You might not be ready. It might not be right. And you might only be ready, or it might only be right to change it to a certain degree, but we need to get honest about that to begin with. Otherwise, it's going to cause us more pain in the future, and we're probably going to not get very far, but feel like, we're exhausted from trying over and over again, but not getting anywhere. The next question you want to ask, so step 3, is what do I need to do, and who do I need to be to do that? So the list you came up with in your Drainer download will outline all the pain points, the things that aren't working, and we then need to build or get creative and curious about, well, what can I do about this? What will I do about this? What skill might I need? Who might I need to talk to? What might I need to learn or research? And in that process of doing those things, who do I need to be? So I've given you a few little secrets or tips or answers to that already. So you might need to be someone with a creative and curious mind. You might need to be someone who is a researcher. You might need to be someone who has confidence. You might need to be someone who's an optimist. You might need to be someone who's prepared to have hard conversations and set and honour a boundary. So I would suggest that's someone who values themselves, who's confident and worthy and deserving. But those 3 questions are going to provide you with lines on a map as to the direction you need to head in, and the things you need to focus on in order to create a shift and create change and get some momentum happening to move away from feeling stuck and move towards feeling in flow and freedom and traction and momentum towards the result that you want and where you want to go. So step 1 is get real with your situation and how you feel about it. Step 2 is to be really honest with the questions, with your answers to the questions. Am I willing to do anything about this? How much am I willing to do about it? And then, what is this asking of me? What do I need to do? And who do I need to be in doing that? Hope that's helpful. Leave any questions below.